Do you remember how the left and sane people have been warning about Trump's authoritarianism and his proclivity to tyranny? Well, other than looking at what Trump does and just seeing it right in front of your eyes, maybe we could get someone on the right, a Republican, to kind of square it away and just settle the score and tell us, where does Trump stand? Is he pro-democracy or is he pro-authoritarianism? Let's find out.
Sovereignty. They're on the side of democracy, liberty, and Russia's on the side of authoritarianism and aggression.
Which side is Trump on?
Clearly, Trump is on the side of peace, and he's trying to balance these two forces, which is very, very difficult to bring these two parties together. But in balancing it, we have to understand that Russia's goal is to take from someone else something that's theirs, and Ukraine has to have a sense of security assurances that Russia's not coming back.
But can I just ask, because Trump has repeatedly said that Ukraine never should have started this war, or words to that effect. I mean, Ukraine didn't start this war.
Well,
they were invaded.
Clearly.
So how does that affect his effort to try to broker a peace deal?
Clearly, a war of aggression is started by Russia, and it has been started by Russia. Yeah. And I think that Trump's sense of wanting peace is incredibly important, and I think it's a noble goal. And I think we're getting closer. I think that Zelensky's coming with a plan that is workable and that could get us there. And hopefully, with our allies in Europe that have come together, they seem to be working in advancing the type of security assurances we're going to need with the United States, that hopefully we can deter Russia in the future.
Hopefully we can deter Russia in the future might be one of the weakest national defense strategies I think I've ever heard from any administration ever. Mike, wasn't the Russia-Ukraine war supposed to be ended before Trump even took office about a year ago? What is going on here? Why is he failing to negotiate peace deals over here? We just saw not the other day, the Thailand-Cambodia peace negotiations fell through. They started firing at each other again, to the point where Trump had to announce a second peace agreement between the two. It's like, what the hell happened to the first one? Anyway, that's a separate story. But Mike, why are we still dealing with this Russia-Ukraine thing? I thought Trump was the deal maker here. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought too. It seems very strange that, he would promise something like being able to solve it day one of being elected, not even being sworn in, but just simply being elected. Within 24 hours of being elected, it's a cakewalk. He's such good friends with Putin. He could work this out. And here we are, almost a full year into his second term, nothing. And I wouldn't even say that we're any closer per se. I mean, maybe technically we are. I'm not keen on all the specifics that the administration's constantly working out, but it doesn't feel like we are, because Russia is still killing plenty of people. And then Ukraine just recently struck, I believe, a Russian general. So the war is definitely still escalating, and there doesn't appear to be any end in sight. But I do think it's kind of funny that this representative was saying, clearly Trump is on the side of peace, and he kind of stumbled quite a bit there. But eventually he sort of said, well, Trump sort of wants to work with Ukraine and work out for positive things and keep Russia contained. But as the reporter highlighted, this has not been the stance Trump has had for most of his term. He mentioned multiple times, like the reporter said, that Ukraine started the war. Before he was even elected, he was promising we would cut off funding to Ukraine. He disapproved of Biden sending Ukraine aid. So we're going to cut off Ukraine. He also has, we mentioned this in our recent video, but he had his envoy was caught making backroom deals with Russia, saying that they would guarantee Russia would keep some of the land that they stole, but they just have to massage it and make sure that Trump likes it and whatnot. And on top of that, you just had Trump at this press conference with Zelensky the other day that we covered, where he says Russia wants Ukraine to succeed. So it like, no matter which way you look at it, there's still some flavor of, Russian support. And let's not forget that Trump considers Putin a very close friend. And on top of it, Tulsi Gabbard has ties to Russia. She's been paid by Russian oligarchs and things like that. And I believe Kash Patel, when he was being sworn in, it was also brought up that he received, like, I think it was a couple $100,000 for making some kind of pro-Russia documentary. So, or being part of a pro-Russian documentary. So again, there's plenty of ties to Russia with this administration. You've also got, going back to 2016, all the stuff with the Russia scandal and the collusion there, which Trump likes to say was a hoax, except that it's not a hoax. It was real. It's just that he was not directly involved. It was a lot of his underlings, and that's why they are currently in prison. And they went to prison. Roger Stone was pardoned, for this kind of stuff. So to say that Trump has just been on Ukraine's side is not exactly as clear as Turner wants it to be. And I can see why he stumbled over those words for sure.
Yeah, Russia has had a weird relationship with the right and the Republican Party in this country. I mean, just, it was not too long ago where the story came out that those right-wing podcasters and influencers were being paid. They were on Russia's payroll. The parent company literally was taking money from the Russian government. You don't see people on the left, having that kinds of allegations. Seems to be only on the right. And the whole Russia hoax thing, it's documented fact that the Internet Research Agency out of Russia has huge bot farms, and they were influencing, almost all the elections, presidential elections in the U.S., going back years. So, this whole the hoax here is Trump calling it a hoax. That's the real hoax. And we see him using that same word about the Epstein files. He's calling that a hoax too. He called COVID a hoax. This man has driven the word hoax into the ground to the point where it's meaningless. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything anymore. But again, he knows the power of language and the power of repetition, and that's how he manipulates his cult followers. Trump is he's just a master of manipulation. That's really what the art of the deal, I think, is really about in Trump's case. He has mastered that art, and it's been working so far. But, the latest numbers of his support, I mean, his approval rating now is at like 36%. It's absolutely abysmal. We're only a year into his second term. We see droves of Republicans dropping support for him. We see Marjorie Taylor Greene doing a complete 180. We see Thomas Massie firing at him over the Epstein files, holding him to his word, his own word that he promised, campaign promise. And it's nice to see, not necessarily, I would say, like in Marjorie's case, principled Republicans, but at least we see people peeling away and peeling off their support. We see lots of influencers turning their back on Trump. Look, again, we're only a year in. And I think it's only going to get worse. I think the economy is only going to get worse, unfortunately. I think the international relations are only going to get worse. I mean, look at what he's doing in Venezuela. Look at what he's doing in the Middle East. It's absurd. It's insane. And it's kind of sad to see all these lies spread about the drugs coming in from Venezuela and people just gobbling them up and buying the propaganda. Even when the U.S. is literally seizing oil tankers and taking and keeping the oil, people still think it's about fentanyl, which no fentanyl comes from Venezuela whatsoever. It's just insane. But that's Trump's magic power, is lying to the best of his abilities and people eating it up. And, that's going to be the superpower that he uses, I think, for the rest of his term and rest of his life, because it's the only one that works. And, but I think as more and more time goes on, the more and more absurd and insane things he says, like with the Rob Reiner remarks and all kinds of stuff, it's nice to see people kind of opening their eyes, and can only hope that continues. And I think it will.